Hello, I am Umbrenero and welcome back to Umbrenero's Life. Today's video is my September 2025 plan with me. So, all year I have been doing my themes based off of ETB boxes of Pokemon cards that I have. And September is no different. This time we are using Evolving Skies as the reference. And has a couple very bright, vibrant colors. I wasn't able to match them all perfectly, but I had a theme idea that would make its way through the entire journal. So, let's get started. Like usual, we begin with the monthly calendar. And I was in the habit of not using a ruler this month at all because I really did not feel like it. And I decided I wasn't going to use a black Tombow to draw all of my lines either. So I grabbed a nice middle of the road gray to sub in as the silver color for the theme. And it kind of worked. Worked well enough for what I needed at least. But as you can see, this was done very quickly. At least this part. What ended up taking the longest time was the sections that I was doing here. I realized I needed to figure out where my title was going for the month, but I forgot. That happens. So I had to go grab that very quick. So, hurry up, stuck in where my label for the month was going, and then began the pattern. So on the box, it has lines of each color in certain quadrants, and that is what I decided I was going to bring through as my theme for the month to have it go throughout the entire setup, which actually I do like pretty well. And I did say I couldn't find the colors perfectly. Well, purple was one of the ones that I had a hard time finding one that was cool toned enough that was close enough. And this was the best I could do. You just have to go with the flow sometimes and make do with what you have. And then same for this teal color. I wanted something a bit lighter, but the same rough shade. Didn't have one, so made do with what I had. But I was figuring that this little theme idea would be easy to bring through to other pages in the spread because it's just something that you don't need to go overly detailed into, and it works. So the next section I did was my goals and things area. And this is a half-page spread because this shares an area with another section, which is next. But you gotta do what you need to do as you're going. So again, I brought the gray marker back to divide the page in half, so that way I knew where I could go up to. And in advance, I did pre-print all of my labels for the sections, the month, the days of the week. I thought ahead. I had everything ready on that front. So what you don't see is me putting the glue on the paper. I do need to invest in getting some printable, like sticker paper that is translucent, so that way I can do my designs and then throw my titles in over the top if I need, because I think that'll make stuff go a lot faster and be a lot easier, because then I'm not messing with the glue and trying to get stuff to go in well. But we just go with the flow here, and get the line drawn for this box. And this is where I really was starting to think of, how am I going to do these sections and make them flow throughout the entire theme. Not through the entire theme. Flow with the theme throughout the entire month. And I figured that I might do things slightly different. And I decided this quadrant of this 2-page area was going to be purely the pink area. Because from on the box, that was the pink section. And it's an easy way to bring the little pops of color to each section as I am going. Also, it meant that I didn't have to do any very detailed work or very messy work to bring the theme on through. So up next is my dad's stuff. I help him out, so I want an area where I keep track of things for him. Which reminds me, there's some stuff I still need to do for him. I need to double check on, but that'll happen this week. And this time, I put the header in right away because I knew roughly where I wanted it, which you can kind of see penciled in there. And I penciled it light enough that it wasn't going to show through the paper I used. Because I did not want to erase for September. I just wanted to go with the flow and get things done. But again, I did very similar to the goals and things section. I put the gray box around the area that will be for that stuff. And then I filled in the rest of the section with that greenish aqua teal color. But this section is actually done in real time. So it took me about 2 minutes to do this area. And this was one of the easier areas to finish. So you can only imagine how long it took for a few of the other sections that were going to happen. So now we are heading on over to my monthly log, which made its return in August. I used it a little bit there. And in September, it gets used a lot more. I will openly say that. And for this one, I didn't want the header on the top of the page. I decided, since I have the other two sections on the other page, both at the top of their respective areas, I wanted my header here on the bottom of the page, just so that way I am not overlapping too much paper in the same spots with glue, so it gets bulky in areas, because that is the last thing I want to do. Because my journal, in all fairness, started as an inch thick, and now it's probably like an inch and a half because of all the stuff I have stuck into it. But as you can see, I went and added the 2 rectangles to be like 2 sections of areas to put stuff. And currently it is laid out like work stuff is in one of the rectangles, and personal and other stuff is in the other. Because I wanted to keep it somewhat organized, which for me is actually very helpful some days. So I was actually right here trying to figure out what way I wanted to do the decorations. And I was doing some debating and going, all right, where will I go? So I threw the gray marks in to give me some breaks on where the next two quadrants would be. And then it was very similar to how I did the other two sections on the other page. And I did not truly plan where marks were going to go in advance. This was all as I was going, just feeling what felt right. And I tried to not put the marks between the letters because I did not want to break the continuity of that, because I do use just plain old white printer paper for my headers when I print them. So, doing what I gotta do. But next is the weekly log. This area has quite a bit of fun to it, I will say. So I decided to do pairs of boxes on the pages. On the left page, for each week, there will be 3 boxes, and on the right page, there will be 4 boxes. And I wanted it done this way because I wanted to try to pull that theme through each week and not have all of that empty space like I have had in so many other months. So, I had a plan going into it this time. But first up was drawing all of these boxes, which they took a while. In all fairness, I will say I took I think it was like a 2-day break in between the first half of my journal and from the weekly logs on, because I was debating that much with what I wanted to do for each of these sections. And sometimes you don't know until you step away, go take care of something else, and just clear your mind of what you're working on, and then you come back and say, hey, I could do this to pull this theme all the way through. And yes, it will look silly a couple times, but in the end, it might actually look pretty neat. And that's kind of what I was wanting. So, with all of the boxes made, I wanted to make sure these all got labeled right away. So, I was using the ETB box I was using as a reference to help me put the days in order, because I wanted to make sure I didn't have one of those oopses where I accidentally put the wrong day and the wrong week and all of that fun stuff, because as I was cutting them out, they got all mixed up, which inevitably happens. So, quick, put them back all in order, made use of the box, which was there the entire time, so I remembered what quadrants colors went to. And then it was the long, tedious task of putting these in. And, like I had done on the headers of the previous page, I am staggering the headers for the days of the week, so that way it's not too thick in one specific spot of my journal. And I am glad that I did that. So, in all, for the month of September, this entire setup took me less than 90 minutes to do if I would have done it all in a single go. But because I did have a couple days in between the first half and the second half, about 45 minutes one day, 45 minutes the other, still not bad. It could have been a lot worse. And it has been a lot worse on some days. So, with all of those stuck in, it was time to bring the theme into these pages. And, like I said, I am doing the quadrants. I wanted the quadrants to be reflected. So I had this huge empty box. And it's like, what do I want to do to fill it up? So, I started just drawing a random pattern in here. And I just kept on going because it's like, this is my journal. I can make it how I want. And this way, I brought in some of those design elements again. So this first page is very similar to how all of the other 2-page areas have been so far. Right, where you have the pink in top left corner, the greenish teal color bottom left, and so on. And here, after I got done with this first page, I already had in mind what I was going to do for the second page, because I didn't want them all to look identical. So the pink section on all the rest of the weeks became a little eighth of this entire weekly layout. And whatever color would have been next got that empty space. So here, the greenish aqua color, the teal, whatever color you want to call it, it got that space. And I make sure to do the pattern a different way, so that way it's not the exact same thing each week. So then, following week, did the 2 quick, simple colors. And yes, I figured just doing the quick little boxes around them was going to be the easiest way for the rest of the parts of the week. And then here, I did the same thing again, this time with purple. And this one I kind of just let flow because I did make a couple mistakes, and it's like, I will just let them be what they are. So then this one, same exact thing, but with blue getting that corner. It made the design process so much quicker and easier once I knew what I was going to do. And I don't know why it took me so long to figure out that this was going to end up being what I wanted. But I'm glad I figured it out. So, for the last 3 days of the month, because they only took 3 days, I decided I am just going to do a giant spiral on this page because I need a spot for the pink and a spot for all the other colors for the weekly log. So, same thing. Quick outlines for the other ones. But onto the migration page. So, this one I had nothing sketched in, and I just went with the flow once again. It's like I could have put my header down at the bottom, but I chose to put it up at the top once I got it off of my scratch piece of paper. So I realized it was off center, so it's like, alright, I am going to purposely make my box not centered. Which gave me a little bit more space for some little decoration, which was completely fine. And this one, I decided I was going to do all 4 colors on this page one more time. And it's the same pattern. But I needed to add the gray marks on where these ones would end. A lot of times I just go with the flow and see what feels right. And this was another one of them. It's like, I realized at that point I had put a lot of lines just going straight up there. So it only felt right to change it so that way I wasn't doing vertical lines the entire way for that section. And with how I accidentally lined up these, it made it basically turn from the blue lines into the purple. So, in all, I do like how this one has turned out. It is theme all the way through, which I know there's been some months where that hasn't quite happened, but I do like how this one has turned out. And I will say, as a little spoiler alert, as of September 7th, I have actually been using my journal a lot this month, and I am very happy I am. Like, I'm actually keeping it up to date, adding stuff that needs to get worked on, and all of that. So far it's working. So, thank you for watching, and until next time, I am Umbrenero. Bye!